Hey there, how's it going? Tim Nash with Scope Realty here. Wanted to talk to you guys today about the 2025 market and what home buyers can expect. So here we are, it's 2025. Lots of crazy things happening in the world and in the US. But let's take a look at the market that actually might not be as crazy as everything else that seems to be going on right now. Just because I think that what we're going to see in 2025, actually, a lot of what we saw in 2024 probably going to see the same thing. So, just a couple of things. So, one, interest rates are still going to maintain about where they've been. Right now, they're at about 6.5% here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. That's what we're seeing. You could find some maybe as low as like 6.4 and then of course all the way up to 7%. But 6.5 is about what we're seeing. And really, that's probably what we're going to see through 2025. We might see interest rates come down a little bit, but not as much as we were expecting maybe 5 or 6 months ago. So in 2025, 2024, 2023, I mean, all the way back until when we were dealing with the pandemic and we had the really, really low interest rates, right? We were dealing with very, very low housing inventory. And housing inventory is still low. That really hasn't changed. What we are going to see is actually the housing shortage. It's easing a little bit, and not necessarily because we're building all these new houses, which is something that we can expect to see from the federal government and from state government, is some new construction incentives and things like that. But as we all know, houses just can't pop up overnight for the buyers to come and look at, right? What we are seeing is because of the higher interest rates that I just mentioned, there will be less buyers on the market looking to buy, and that's going to help buyers that are on the market in 2025 with that inventory piece. It's going to feel like there's a little bit more on the market. It's going to feel like you have some more options. And the good thing is there won't be as much competition out there. So that is one thing to look forward to. Even with interest rates kind of staying where they're at, you can hope to see a better inventory, more options, less competition. So also, regional variations, right? So somebody might be watching this and you might be in California, New York, near the coast somewhere, and or maybe you're in a booming city like Denver or something like that, where property values are very, very high. Here in the Midwest, we're actually seeing very reasonable prices, and even while housing prices continue to slowly go up, it's still not the same kind of prices that you're going to see out on the coast and in those big booming cities like Denver, Austin, etc. So that's one good thing, is like regionally here, the Midwest housing market in 2025 is going to stay, from my point of view as a realtor that kind of sees everything out there, actually fairly reasonable. So that's good. Now, home prices will continue to go up, although they aren't going to go up like we saw them going up during the pandemic. Again, I have to emphasize, back then we had very low interest rates. Everybody was either looking to buy or refinance. And those folks that are out there looking to buy, so much competition. And that meant that we were having competitive prices, and prices were literally leapfrogging up. So you could list a house at $210,000 and it would not be out of the ordinary to sell that house for $250,000. Like, it was just crazy, the types of prices that we were seeing. Now, that has slowed way down. House prices are going to continue to go up, but they're going to go up just like they always have for decades and decades and decades. If you look all the way back to the 80s, we have always seen property values slowly tick up by like 1 to 3% annually. So we're still going to see that, but I don't want you as a home buyer to think that it's going to be like we saw housing prices go up 2021, 2022, 2023. Okay? So that's the very first thing that I'm going to tell you if you've come to me as someone that wants to buy a home in 2025 is, have you spoken to a lender? Do you have pre-approval? I know that it's not the first thing that people think of, because people want to get out there and start looking at houses right away. So they always reach out to a realtor. But the very first thing you should do is you should find a lender that you trust, and a lender that is knowledgeable of what is available to you as a home buyer in the 2025 market. So in saying that, one thing that you really should take a look at is potential first-time homebuyer programs in your state, and also that the that the government offers. So I'm talking like VA, Veterans Administration, VA loans and FHA loans, right? And then also here in Iowa, we got the Iowa Finance Authority, IFA, and they have a lot of really great programs that offer grants for first-time home buyers and also veterans. So in addition, when you're talking to your lender, you want to consider the total costs. So one thing that I see a lot of buyers do is they'll go out on Zillow and they'll look and they'll see like they'll like be like, oh, I can buy this house and my monthly bill, my mortgage is going to be $1,200 a month. And it's like, okay, well, that's the mortgage, right? Have you taken, and maybe they've taken into consideration the interest rate, but have you taken into consideration things like property taxes and also insurance? Insurance right now is really crazy. One thing that I always do when I write an offer for my buyers is in my purchase agreement, there's a little box that I always check and it says insurance. And basically what that does is that puts a contingency in that purchase agreement saying we can't move forward on this purchase until the buyer finds a suitable insurance for that property, because you might be in a floodplain. And if you're in a floodplain, all of a sudden, and these aren't real world numbers, but all of a sudden insurance is going to be an additional $800 a month instead of an additional $200 a month. And you look at that and you're like, well, my $1,200 just went up to $2,000 and I can't afford that. So make sure that when you're talking with your lender and when you're talking with your realtor, you are looking at your total costs, what that bottom line monthly bill is going to be for that you're going to be that check that you're going to be writing at the end of month every month, probably for the next 30 years. Talk a little bit about home features and trends that we're seeing. So one thing that we're seeing a lot of is energy efficiency. Solar panels are becoming a very big thing here in Iowa. I know they're becoming a big thing all over the US. I should do a separate video on solar panels. So solar panels can be a great thing, a great feature for your home to have. And when you as a buyer are shopping and you find a house that has solar paneling and you think that's a really good thing, one of the contingencies that you would want to write in there is you would want to make sure to know whether those solar panels are paid off or not, because that could actually add quite a bit on to your mortgage that you weren't really expecting. Also, multi-use spaces is something that's becoming a very, very popular. And it's one thing that you might want to think of as a home buyer. Like, what does your job look like? Are you working from home? Do you need an office space? This is something that an office used to be like a really, really popular thing back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. You get this big house and always have this set aside office space. But that's something to take into consideration now, because I think we kind of went away from that for a while. Now, with a lot of people working remote, we've come back to multi-use spaces like that office space. So something to take into consideration. Also, always, 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 when you're looking for a new house, you need to look at the age of the property. If you love old homes, if you love a bit of a challenge, if you love the charm, if you like the older established neighborhoods, then maybe an older home is for you. But that's definitely something to take in consideration while you are looking at homes. Even though it's just gorgeous and it's got the original wood floors and it's got the beautiful trim, it's also something to take into consideration that, do you have some good contractors on hand for when stuff goes wrong that you got to fix? So that's something else to take into consideration. Home buying strategies in 2025. So this is true all the time. I just want to make sure that I talk about it a little bit, is that you need to be ready to act. I have a lot of buyers that want to start looking, and I say, have you talked to your lender? And they're like, oh no, but we'll get to that. And that's one piece of the thing. Do you have your down payment? Well, we're saving up and we've got this much. And I'm like, well, your budget is this much, so you really need to have this much. So there is going to still be competition on the market out there, and you as a home buyer need to be ready to write that offer if you find that house that you fall in love with. Because the one thing that I hate to do is I hate to work with buyers. I love working with people. I love people, but I hate working with a buyer who is not ready to write an offer. Because let's say we find that perfect house. We find that house that you absolutely love and that you have to have, and it's in the perfect neighborhood, and your dogs and the kids are going to play in the front yard. I mean, like, you are imprinting on this house. And I say, all right, let's write this offer. Where's that pre-approval letter? And they're like, oh man, we haven't talked to a lender yet, or we don't have our down payment ready. I mean, there's so many different factors. Or we need to sell our house still. Oh, that's a huge one. Is if you have a house to sell and you haven't even started the process. And as a realtor, as somebody that's probably going to be selling your house unless you're coming in from out of town, that's also my responsibility to help you prepare. So while you're seeing this on me talk about this, if you end up working with me as your realtor, I'm going to be there to help you prepare to go through this process of selling and buying a home. But yeah, be ready to act. Also, oh my gosh, so now that like all this not all the competition, but now that the competition isn't quite as heavy as it used to be, let's talk about inspections. We need to do inspections here in Iowa. There's the full home inspection, right? But then also there's radon that we really should do an inspection on, just to make sure that the naturally causing gas that rises up out of the ground is not so high that could cause you and your family some potential health issues. Termites, wood destroying insects, so we got to do that. And one thing here in Cedar Rapids that a lot of people aren't aware of, there's different pockets of the country, but Orangeburg pipe. If your house was built between 1945 and 1972 roundabouts, we need to do a sewer line inspection on your house to make sure that your sewer line isn't made out of Orangeburg pipe, which was something that came out of as a result of World War II, which another thing I could probably do a whole video on Orangeburg pipe. So don't skip inspections, okay? It's very, very important because you could buy your dream house and that sucker could turn into a lemon real quick if all of a sudden all these things start going wrong with it. By paying attention to what I've told you today, hopefully, if you're looking to buy a house in 2025, some of these things I've talked about today is going to help you get through the process of buying a home in 2025. All that being said, make sure you have your team put together. When you're going to buy a house in 2025, make sure you've got your realtor, make sure you've got your lender, okay? If you're looking to build, make sure that you've got your builder too, all right? And between those two or three if you're building, but between those two people, your lender and your realtor, with you, the home buyer, we kind of form a team and we're all on the same team and we're all working together to make sure that we can get you into a house that you are happy with, that after you've signed all the papers and you're in your home and you're moved in, you don't feel completely overwhelmed, right? Like my job is to make sure that you as a home buyer are well informed so that when you make those decisions, you're comfortable with those decisions. You don't feel like you've bitten off more than you can chew, all right? So when you've signed off on that paper and you're in your home, you're excited to be there and you aren't overwhelmed, all right? So if you're looking to buy in 2025, and you're somewhere in the Cedar Rapids area here in Iowa, reach out to me. I'd love to work with you. And if you're not, reach out to me anyway. If you're in Oregon, reach out to me and I will help you find a reputable realtor in your area. All right. Please like this video. Please subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. All right. Have a great 2025.